In my last video, I posed this question to you guys. Is it possible to calculate the square root of a negative number? If not, what about the cube root? Hi everyone and welcome to Sneezy Teachers, and today's lesson is going to be a slightly different interactive lesson on negative bases and roots. If we take a look at the square root of negative 64, remember that that's like saying something squared is negative 64. You're trying to find the number that can fit in the blank. Now, positive 8 squared is positive 64, and negative 8 squared is also positive 64. The only way to get a negative product is if we have positive 8 times negative 8, because a positive and a negative make a negative. So if you said that the square root of negative 64 is impossible, it doesn't exist, you are correct. Mostly. If you go on to take more advanced mathematics, you'll learn about imaginary numbers. Literally, numbers that don't exist in real life, including the square root of negative 1. It doesn't actually exist. They literally call it an imaginary number, but they still calculate things with it. Mathematicians are weird. But for the purposes of this video, the square root of negative 64 is not a thing. It's not real. The end. But what about the cube root of negative 64? That means that we're looking for a number that, when multiplied by itself 3 times, is equal to negative 64. Blank cubed is negative 64. Can we put anything in the blank to make this work? Well, positive 4 cubed is positive 64. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. But if we want a negative 64, could we try it with negative 4s? Let's see. Negative 4 times negative 4 equals positive 16, because 2 negatives make a positive. And then positive 16 times negative 4 is equal to negative 64. So we can have cube roots of negative numbers. The roots will also be negative. But we can't have square roots, because even when the root or base is a negative number, the product will never be a negative number. Piss off. You don't exist. Here's a question for you guys. Is the 11th root of negative 177,147 a real number? Does it exist? Or is it impossible, like the square root of negative 64? Grab a pen and paper, because we're going to go on an interactive maths journey to try and figure this question out. To start with, see if you can find the solutions to these questions without using a calculator. If you think you know the answer, click on the correct card to continue.